Welcome to the Weekly Pistol Podcast. At the end of this hour, we want you better than when we started.
All right, what's good? What's good, T?
Hey, I'm here, even though you can't see me.
I love seeing you. We got another guest visiting who's watching the podcast. Maybe someday he'll reveal his face as well.
Hello, guest.
He's a virtual guest. All right, so we're back, and we took a little hiatus because, well, you know, Veronica's into that stupid-ass football, and there was some big game or something, and
Why? Her team wasn't in it,
I don't know.
What's
Because she
the
wants
point?
to fucking run around in whatever, you know, flavor of the day is, and I don't know. I didn't watch it, so I heard people still sat during the national anthem, all that nonsense, bullshit.
Yep, I don't watch it anymore because of that.
So, anyways, we're glad we're back. For those of you that are followers, we appreciate you following us. I'm Manny. I'm one of the founders of Pistol. Seated to my right is T,
Hola.
my superhero. And we have very special guests today. And they're coming all the way out of, what part of Oregon?
Lake Roseburg.
Roseburg or Lake Roseburg?
No, Roseburg.
Roseburg.
Yeah.
Two very, very, very dear friends of mine. And
I'll let them be the judge of that.
we're tight. We're tight. Josh Scooter Corrington. Scooter was given the name that I gave him back in the day when I first met him. And his lovely wife, Lauren,
I thought that was
with us.
motherfucker. I thought that was the name you gave me when you first met me.
Oh, no. Cocksucker, asshole, and I think we're dying is what I gave you. So Josh was our very, very, very first member of Pistol.
Was it a thing? Pistol
it
was a thing, and they said, "Is anyone going to show up to this?"
It was up and running, and when we got that phone call, man, it was like somebody had dispatched an e-call. Like I called Dave. I was like, "We got somebody on the phone. We got somebody like he needs help. We got to get like." I'm calling everybody, and so I really, really appreciate you guys being here. I know you're busy. You got shit going on with your family, and I just found out that you had a third child. And I know that's rough on Lauren, not so much Josh. But just real quick, Josh, if you want to just kind of give a backstory, like where you worked, how long were you an officer, how long you guys been married, stuff like that.
Yeah, we're coming up on 13 years February. Mm-hmm. Worked for Phoenix for about 10 years by the time I retired. Primarily South Mountain for the first 5 years, a few years up north, and then finished down in Maryville.
All patrol?
Yeah, all patrol.
Nice. Call to call. So I know yours, we've talked many times, and we just talked before we got started that over your career, this was kind of the totality. It wasn't just one critical incident, right?
Yeah.
Can you kind of explain to us where, like, looking back, I know we talked just a little bit before, but looking back, where was that moment where you're like, oh, fuck, I messed up?
Well, it's actually when I got injured. When I got injured and I was home for a while. Long story short, I was chasing somebody, went over a wall. My foot got crushed. I was misdiagnosed. So I was on it for another month before they realized that it was broken and torn and this and that. So I was off work for a while, and it kind of got me away from the grind, if you will. And I started, I guess that's kind of when I got a little perspective, and I realized, hey, you know, something's not right.
Now, were you married? You guys were married at the time?
Yeah.
So how long had you been married to him as he was a cop, I guess? When you met him and got married, he was already a cop?
Yeah.
For how long?
When I met him, he was going to the academy.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then we didn't get married till after you graduated.
Okay, so...
Well,
That's a whole nother story.
she met me, yes, and then she dumped me.
Oh, okay. Because you were a cop.
But then it worked out in the end. So
All
it's
right,
fine.
yeah.
So it's not like we dated the whole time.
No.
Right.
When we started dating again, I'd already been on finished probation at that point.
So coming back after the 3 times you thought it through,
Okay.
how was his personality at the time? Because he was already off FTO, you said?
Yeah, I was off FTO at that point.
Okay.
He was like when we were dating, you know, happy and outgoing and.
He wasn't an asshole.
No,
It wasn't a ball of rage.
no, not at all.
And so how long into that career did you start noticing changes?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Probably. When did you start calling out a lot? Like 2010. We got married in 07. So
I would say probably,
like 10, 11, 12-ish.
yeah, probably around there.
Yeah.
So she said something interesting. She said, "When did you start calling out a lot?
Yeah.
What were you working Graves?
No, I
Swing.
work swings.
Swings?
Yeah.
And this
My
was
whole career, actually, I work swings.
this was before your foot jumping the wall?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you remember calling out?
Oh, yeah. And it's not, it was just because I would literally get so stressed it would make me physically sick. And in fact, actually, I had gone to the doctor because I started having like blood in my stool and like a lot of stomach problems and stuff like that, just from the amount of stress and stuff that, like I physically couldn't go to work because I was so sick. And I found out later it was all stress related, that it was a reaction of my body because, because on the day before I'd go back, you start kicking in that gear, right?
Yeah.
Tomorrow I'm going to work. I'm going to war tomorrow. So it's so that adrenaline starts coming and this and that, and and you start not feeling good. So called out a lot, probably, and then I'd only call it a day and then go work 3 days, and
You needed one more day
yeah,
to get ready to go
yeah,
to go out
pretty much,
there.
Yeah,
Did you work 800? Which Maryville, right?
yeah.
That's interesting that you say that about the calling in and just not feeling well. Because prior to my incident, I also had physical sickness, and then I was like, never had physical. I was never
Yeah.
sick before. An athlete
I just thought I
and
was
it-
working too many hours or something, and just not getting sleep because
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't get sleep anyway. But
Yeah, because you would go to work, leave for briefing at like 1:30, and you wouldn't. There were some nights you wouldn't come home until like 5, 6 of the next day.
yeah,
Yeah.
And then you'd sleep for a couple hours, and then wake up and do it all over again.
Was that because you were being held over,
Yeah.
or just because calls for service? Like you caught a call an hour before you were supposed to go 10-7.
Well, I mean, yeah, there was time there where, especially when we didn't hire for so long too, that
Yeah.
it was some mandatory holdover, and then other times too was you have someone reports and you're not getting in, and you got 5, 6 reports still to do. What are you gonna do? You can't hold it till tomorrow because tomorrow you're gonna go there, list full of calls. over
Right.
again.
Yeah. You're already going to be down 5
Yeah,
fucking
exactly.
reports.
Yeah, I remember. P3 sitting 3 days.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You remember those delayed burglaries? You're like, this was taken last Tuesday.
I
Is
know.
anybody going to take this fucking call?
Yeah.
We
It's just
didn't
'cause you
have
go-
many of those because
Just go
they
hot
weren't
call to hot
allowed.
call. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you just couldn't help it because you'd get off one hot call and you get another hot call. A lot of times, sometimes you got a hot call by yourself just because there's nobody.
Yeah. Any units
There's
break
no one
in the
there-
city.
Yeah, there's no one there.
We had that.
Come.
Do you have that?
Any units break?
Yeah,
well,
all
yeah.
the fucking time.
I did swing shifts my whole career, bro. Yeah.
So before we get too much further into the whole stress thing, at this point, no kids. It's just
Right. No kids at
you
that
two.
point.
What was your downtime? Because we've heard, and our guest today, who's sitting there watching it, was in the same training I was on Friday. They talk about working out on your day off, going on dates. What is that something that you did?
I would say I was definitely more like willing to go out and do stuff earlier in my career. Much later in my career, I didn't want to leave the house.
I know, but what about as far as getting rid of that anxiety, getting rid of that monkey mind that we couldn't shut off? On your 3 days off, did you have a plan?
No, not really. But I like I'm mechanically inclined, and so a lot of my, I guess, how I would try and get rid of my stress would be trying to put it into a project or something like that.
Which it didn't sound like it was working.
No.
And for you, Lauren, what in that change how were you handling him at that time? Were you just letting him kind of veg out and
Yeah. I didn't.
I guess video games too was actually.
You did a lot of video games.
dirty Call of Duty?
Yeah. At that point in time, I didn't really know what was going on, and I was working. We were both in school at the time too,
Yeah.
getting our bachelor's degrees, and I just figured he was tired. He was
So you
busy
were working and going to school?
Full time.
full time.
No wonder you had fucking anxiety. Jesus Christ. Not the fucking job. It's all the shit you're on your plate. And
Yeah, that's what we figured. It was just we were both working full time. We were both in school full time. We were paying bills, trying to buy a house.
but you didn't have the
like that.
same anxiety over a test, did you?
No.
No. So
He's smart though. He's a great GPA.
He's
Come on.
one of those that doesn't even study, I'm sure.
Yeah, let's not even do this. His fucking head's already big as it is.
saying.
So in all honesty, and I don't know if you've ever said this out loud or you're going to tell us the truth, but did you know deep down inside that you were getting sick because of work and didn't tell Lauren?
I had a feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot I didn't communicate to Lauren about work because I always want to leave work at work. I never wanted to try and let it invade my home life.
Right.
I mean, obviously that didn't work, but that was my mentality going in. I want to leave the job at the job. I didn't want to be a cop 24/7.
Right.
I wanted to be a cop when I was there, but I wanted to be Josh when I was somewhere else.
Right.
You know, and that was my brother was in law enforcement. That's advice he gave me when I went in. So that's like the mentality when I started my career of, hey, this is how I kind of want to live a good career.
So even not being a cop when you're off duty, coming to that third day, you were already built up with anxiety going back anyways.
Well, I mean, yeah, you never really shut it off on your days off anyway. You still run scenarios, right? I mean, it got to the point, too, where I didn't like going out because I'd go to a restaurant. The only thing I would do is run scenarios on how I would kill people if they tried to come in with a gun or something, you know? What would I do?
Does that sound familiar, guest?
You know, and that's why I didn't want to leave, because I didn't like thinking like that. I didn't like thinking like, you know, I've murdered millions of people. You know, I mean, I have to say it. But,
You're a fucking serial killer.
like, seriously, but that's how, because when you're on calls and when you're going, and that's how we were trained. You know, when you're going to a call, you run scenarios. So when you get there and one of those scenarios happen, you don't think about it. You have a plan.
Yep.
Right.
But they don't tell you how to shut it off. You know, so when you're going to Applebee's with your family, you're still running scenarios. You know, is this guy gonna try and carjack me, or you know,
Yeah.
is someone gonna try and take my kids or something like that? I mean, honestly, I still do that. I still.
There's no way
I
to
still
turn it
can't-
off,
no, I
man.
can't.
I will
It
fucking
doesn't
wish you
stop.
could turn it off.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And so for you, Lauren, what were you experiencing during that time? Were you just, that's just cop. That's just how he is. That's how cops are. Did you think it was odd?
No, because I had done a lot. I wanted to be a cop before we got married, and then I figured 2 cops in my family wasn't a good idea, so I
Not a
didn't
good
go that.
idea.
So I didn't go that route. But so
Good.
I was doing all the the Citizens Academy, the police science classes, the thousands of ride-alongs that I could get on
Mhm.
before. So in my head, it was just, this is what it is, and I knew that he liked sitting in a particular spot when we would go to a restaurant to be able to see
Oh,
everything.
Oh, that's
I'm gonna
awesome.
guess real close to the door with his back to the door, right?
Like when we have coffee,
Yeah.
Mm, what the?
we got somebody guarding the door now, and the building's empty. So, all right. So let's jump forward to this whole anxiety thing.
What? Before you do that, Lauren,
Yeah.
was that the only thing he was doing? Calling out and being physically ill? Was there more to it that you were seeing?
That's all I'm remembering at the moment.
Okay.
A lot of that time I've honestly forgotten. It's kind of blurred and
Oh yeah,
blurred out.
We understand that completely.
You know.
So your anxiety builds up. Had you had any critical incidents? I mean, clearly you're in Phoenix, but at that point, had there been any significant critical incidents that would have led you to believe at that time, okay, this job is affecting me in a...
I don't know if I really related it to critical incidents at the time, because I mean I'd gone to so many different homicides and, you know, brutal crimes consistently that it was just work.
Right.
You know, I never really at that point in time kind of put the two in together. That it's going to these all the time, nonstop. You know, just seeing just the ugly of everything, constant, nonstop. That's bombarding me. That's what's affecting me. I just thought it was more kind of like just I felt overworked, like I just needed to catch my breath and I just couldn't.
Okay.
Ooh, you did become really jaded. I just remembered that.
Yeah, well.
Jaded. That's weird. Who's jaded? None of us are jaded.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Skeptical maybe, but not jaded.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah. That's-
Cynical. That's another word. Jaded. That's a harsh word.
It's accurate though.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest.
So, kind of, did you the critical incidents that you did have, were they kind of back to back? Were they over the course of many years?
No, it was over the course of many years. I mean, the thing is that, you know, I can't tell you how many homicides I've been to, right? But there's certain ones that stick out. So I know those ones had more impact than other ones, right? Like, I mean, my first freaking 2 days on FTO, we had a double homicide, right? And then it's like, but then I had like a lot of other ones I went to, but then there's like other ones are, you know, the one with the guy, and this is probably like one of those stronger ones for me is the guy that bled out in my arms.
Right.
You know, he was high on PCP and tried to stab somebody or something and missed and freaking ended up stabbing his own femoral. right as I got there. And just having him, it's hard to talk about, watching the life leave his body while I was trying to save him and help him, that still impacts me. I still have issues with that. And then when squad mates were killed and stuff like that, just kind of some of those as well too that, had a hard time with.
So now, Lauren, when he talks about those, I know that critical incident because when we met him, we talked about it. Right. Was that, what, did he tell you about that at all when it happened?
No.
Not at all. No. He just came home and it was just, I'm home and that's it.
I'm home. I'm tired. I'm hungry. I'm going to bed.
Okay. And when you first heard that, what were your thoughts when you first heard that story?
The first time I was like, holy crap, kind of sale. Like, he didn't, like you said, he didn't bring work home. Even if I asked him about it, he wouldn't, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So, no.
And then
okay.
You've had squad mates that are on the wall now, right?
Yeah.
Did you explain to her? Did she meet them?
Yeah. You met Shane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, moving forward, so we know that one critical incident with the homicide or the femoral artery guy that you struggle with, but the guys on the wall. Did you address that with her when those things went down, or was it just like the rest of us that says, we got this funeral we got to go to, and I'm okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably. And I don't know if she ever knows this, but I actually got sent home after that one because I broke down and I just couldn't go. My boss sent me home. I don't remember if they called you or not. If Jared Smart called you or not.
I don't remember.
So over that time, as that's occurring, what are you seeing as a spouse?
That he doesn't want to talk about it. He comes home and he just does his things to veg out, which you did play a lot of video games, but we didn't have kids at the time, so I'd sit there and watch them play video games, or we would watch movies, or we'd go on impromptu campouts and stuff.
Was it longer? Like he was doing those things longer as opposed to prior to, you know what I mean? Like that was the change?
The change was more of the, how do you say it?
Anger.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that he snapped
Can you be honest?
Personality.
You can say it.
Yeah, no, it was
I'm
more
on the game. Shut it.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely
More
the anger would be the
short-tempered.
change. Yeah, you were angry. And there was times that there was things at that time that I wouldn't tell you because like, oh, I don't want to tell Josh because it's gonna piss him off.
Like what? We need eggs.
She never told him. She can't
just
say it
don't say
now.
it.
We need eggs. That pissed me the fuck off. I mean, we need eggs.
No, I don't remember specific things that I wouldn't tell him, but there was, probably things at work that were done or,
Just walking on eggshells all together.
Yeah. So.
And so, as this is occurring, and you're building up that momentum of anger and bitterness and anxiety, what are you doing to address it, if anything?
Well, the thing is that I guess when you're in the middle of it, you don't feel it's as bad as it is. So I wasn't doing anything really to address it because I think it was a problem. I guess I didn't understand as far as how much it really was affecting my personality and my behavior. To me, it was just kind of more like, oh, I'm having a bad day. I'm just tired. I'm stressed. I just need more sleep, and then I'll be fine.
What about the calling in sick? Did anyone at the department fucking question you? Like,
No.
hey, you're fucking sick again, bro?
Uh-uh.
No? And then you just figured, fuck, I'll just sleep it off and start it again? How long did that work for you?
A lot of the times, too, I'd just call and say, hey, put my name on the calendar. So I wasn't calling. I'd use my personal time instead of sick time, so it didn't count against me. But
so what about, how'd that work out for you, doing that?
I ran out of sick all of my time. I didn't have any vacation time.
You weren't carrying any vacation time.
Dude. Yeah.
And then you're forced to go in.
Yeah.
And as that's going on, so what year are we at now? You started it, you went through the academy in what year?
I think 06.
And so
No, 05.
05.
Yeah.
Where are we at in this timeline where you're...
This would probably have been around 2010 or 11.
And by that time, so 5 years into it, you'd already lost how many partners?
Well, one that was a squad mate and another guy that was a sister squad. So 2 guys that I worked with at that
2
point.
guys?
Yeah.
And at that point, how's your personal life? How's that evolving, or not evolving?
I was gonna say you can't ask him that because motherfucker thinks he was doing fine. So you need to ask her.
Yeah.
And say, okay, you're walking on eggshells.
2010. Yeah, it was still just us. We didn't have kids until the end of 14. Right, that's the right year for 14.
That sounds right.
So what was?
I hope the kids don't watch this.
Yeah, no. So what was it like for you as a spouse? I mean, he's glued to the TV playing video games.
Well, it was well, I worked, and so my coworkers would go out and like, hey, come out, it's Friday night, let's go. You know, they went to bars or whatever. So hey, let's go out, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna be me, even if it was a day that he's off or that he didn't go to work. He didn't want to go, and so the running joke was, "Oh, you're single, but you have a quote unquote husband." I'm like, no, he really does exist.
Yeah, he's really a cop.
He really is a cop. He just doesn't like to go. Well, I wouldn't mind to see he was a cop either.
Oh,
I told her not to tell anyone.
He was a garbage man.
Yeah,
and then
I told her to tell her when I worked for the sanitation department, picking up garbage.
So no one would ask you any fucking questions.
Well, and then I met a guy that worked that area that worked for.
He's like, oh yeah, where does he work? He's like, oh yeah, I know someone that works in the area. He's like, it's a big place. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, I suck at lying too, so it was very hard to be like, yeah.
So by that time, you're experiencing what probably many wives now experience, is just managing your career by yourself and friends by yourself. And
yeah, it was we would go to some family things, and he would go to some friend, like personal friends of his, but like anything out with like some of my friends or my coworkers or anything out of like not his comfort zone, I was doing by myself. So that got kind of boring after a while, so then I just stopped doing it.
And you just vegged out with him?
Yeah. And then
vicarious laziness from Josh. Just fucking hanging out with your broken ass in the corner.
So he doesn't want to go out and do stuff, but
Right.
is he angry already?
Yeah.
Is he snapping at you?
There ain't no one else to snap at.
Yeah.
Well,
we don't ever fight that much.
well,
but
she doesn't
but
want. She wants to be all nice to him right now. Dive his ass out.
No.
We actually, there's times I'm short with her, but we've never. There's maybe on a handful of times we've actually gotten into it over
Big
our
fight.
marriage.
But I had learned like, okay, you don't tell him this, just don't tell him that, and just don't talk about this. He doesn't talk about that, so we just let it be.
So a perfect marriage, right? I don't know what the problem is.
That's why you have 3 kids and everything's fine. You don't have PTSD. You've got the greatest marriage in the world.
She just doesn't talk to me.
Yeah.
We're so fine.
She doesn't fuck with me when I play video games, and I don't bother her when she's not the kid.
That's why she can never find him. He's out in the yard somewhere.
So we're at about 2010 now, 2011. Had your
That happened in
No,
13.
that-
13? So let's go to that moment where you screw up your leg, and what happened there?
So, they did several surgeries on it. Just kept getting worse, and then I got CRPS in it, which is a chronic regional pain syndrome, to the point I couldn't walk on it at all. So I ended up amputating it so I could walk and still be able to do stuff. So, I guess that's what led to my medical retirement.
But you've got a medical retirement disability because of your leg?
Yeah.
And PTSD, or just your leg?
Just my leg.
Right.
Which, honestly, I probably wouldn't have got one for PTSD at that time in the department. That was when Phoenix was really kind of going through its no one has PTSD.
Yeah, there ain't no
phase.
problems at this place.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
It was real hard for guys to go through. In a way, that getting injured in my leg was kind of a blessing because it allowed me to be able to retire. It gave me an avenue to retire, kind of straighten my life out a little bit.
Nothing good comes from jumping walls. That's all I gotta say. And he's the prime example. So, at some point during this time frame, Lauren finds us, and she reaches out to us. Go ahead.
It was sometime, I tried to figure it out. It's sometime December 2014, somewhere the end of 2014, beginning of 2015, somewhere in that ballpark.
But why? Why are you reaching out? If it's just you don't talk about these things, why do you think you need to reach out?
Well, at this point, we hadn't adopted her yet, but our daughter moved in. We were fostering her, and she had some past trauma issues. So between her trauma issues and his trauma issues, it was
Hell.
It
A
was
perfect
hell.
storm.
It
Yeah.
was
and
hell.
and you were in
It
the
was a lot
middle.
of stress.
And I was in the middle, and then I've been told at that point for 8 years I'd never get pregnant, and then I found out I was pregnant, and I was working 40 to 50 hours a week at home, and
Taking care of Dum Dum over here.
taking
Yeah.
care of. I was doing everything: yard work, housework, taking her to and from school,
What was he doing?
recovering from his multiple surgeries, laying in bed.
Okay. So how did you find us? I don't remember.
I
Was it
don't
a news
remember
spot or
either.
something?
I don't remember
Facebook?
how I
Was it
found it.
Internet.
Internet?
I think I googled something because my daughter's past trauma, she had her diagnosis, and some of the things that they would talk about would like, oh well, he does that too. Oh well, he does that too.
Oh, heck.
She was diagnosed with PTSD.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd kind of put the 2 and 2 together, and then just, I work on a computer, so I had. Just
So you were
Googled-
like,
I'm
so
on the
you were
computer.
diagnosing
She was-
Josh like this motherfucker's got PTSD.
WebMD.
Yeah.
There she is.
Anger issues, check. On video game, check. All around asshole, check. So
Well, and was Martha in there yet? Martha, our caseworker wasn't there yet, was she?
At that point, I think so. I don't remember.
And we had for his injury, we had gotten a caseworker, and she would talk to me on the side sometimes, and that was helpful.
she's like, hey, that guy over there. I want to get him out.
She was a godsend, though.
Oh,
She really was.
I miss Martha. Martha was amazing.
So you reach out to us, and this conversation that you and I have
I don't remember it.
is fucking classic.
I don't remember it.
So
He's about to tell you.
Dave
how
and
it went down.
Dave and I had got Pistol up and running, and we had no idea what we were up against. We didn't even know if anybody would care, because we thought we were the only two people that had PTSD in the world
Right.
that were involved in law enforcement.
Right.
And we went live, and we put up our website, and I think we did a news spot on KTAR,
Maybe that's where I heard it. I don't
and
know.
we have this Google phone that Dave had. He's like, we got a Google phone. Who's going to pay the bill? And I was like, I don't know, one of us. And so one day, the fucking Google phone rings. I was like, holy shit, somebody's calling us. And I thought for sure it was the wrong number. And it's Lauren on the other side. And we have this brief conversation, and she says, my husband's injured. He works for Phoenix PD, and I think he has PTSD. And I was like, okay. And I had no idea what the fuck to say.
That
I
was your
like,
first phone call
that
ever.
was my first phone call ever. I was
I
like,
didn't know that was your first phone call.
I was like, bring him in.
Yeah, he's not. And
No.
I remember saying he's not gonna go in.
Yeah.
He's not gonna talk to you.
So we're having this conversation, and I
Yeah.
said, hey, can you meet us today? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. So I'm like, okay, where are you at? So we developed the whole reason we would meet at Starbucks is this guy right here. So we find this mutual place to meet, and I'm on the phone with her, and I said, okay, I'm going to call the guys, and we'll meet you at that Starbucks. I think it was a mall,
It
right?
was at a
PV
mall.
Mall.
Yeah, PV
Yeah.
Mall. And she's like, okay. I said, all right, I'll call you back and we'll confirm the time. So I hang up the phone. I call Dave. I call Benny. I'm like, or Nick. And I go, hey, we got a guy.
We got one.
And
we
he's-
got one.
Reel him in.
Yeah. And he's angry, right? And so Dave couldn't make it. So I think it was just Nick and I.
Yeah.
And so Nick's like, I'll be there. And I said, okay, Nick and I can take care of this. So I hang the phone up with Nick. This conversation lasts 5 minutes tops from the time that I hung up with Lauren. And I called Lauren back and I said, okay, it's all scheduled. We'll meet you there this time. And she goes,
Yeah, he's not.
yeah,
gonna go.
he's not going to go.
He's not gonna go
And I was like, what the fuck just happened? We had him.
because the conversation at home was, hey, so I called this guy,
And then you go,
And-
how
and
many
we're gonna-
motherfuckers? Yeah.
and then we're gonna go meet him and we're gonna talk, and he's like, I'm not gonna go.
I said, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not going.
And so I'm on the phone with her. I'm like, you mean you called us and not once mentioned this to your husband?
Hey, surprise.
Yeah.
You know?
And now you're going to try to get him in the car to show up? I'm a cop. What the fuck does that...
There's some things you don't talk about.
I know.
That was one of those things, dummy.
So I'm like, so now I'm thinking, okay, I got to think on the fly. Like, I can't just say, okay, call back when he's ready to show up. Like, I had nothing. So I said, hey, can you just put him on the phone for a minute? And so she's like, yeah, sure. You know, like, you're the...
She's willing to do whatever.
Yeah. And so he gets on the phone and immediately he's like, hello? And I was like, fuck, this is a rough crowd. And I told him who we were, and I said, hey, man. I said, your wife reached out to us, something to this effect. And I said, all you got to do is show up. You give us 5 minutes of your time, and if you don't like what we got to hear, you tell us kick rocks.
Yeah.
And he was like, all right, sounds good. Hands the phone back to Lauren. And she's like, okay, I guess we're going. And I'm like, all right, we'll see you at this time. So we get it all set up. We get to the mall. Nick always carries. And he's just one of those guys that carries everywhere. He's got 1, he's got 5 on him. So I'm in the middle of my PTSD trying to figure out how I'm going to help this guy. And we get to PV, and Lauren gives me a brief description like, hey, he's this short little redhead guy that, you know.
I'm not redheaded. What are you talking about?
Yeah. And maybe it's just a fire in your eyes that I saw. And you're going to know him because he's wobbling around on one of those scooters because he's got a fucked up leg, right? So I was like, all right, whatever. So we meet at the Starbucks, and Nick and I are looking around, and we see Lauren first, and around the corner, here comes fucking Scooter. Now he's like, fucking, but he's pissed. And I can see it in his face. And Nick looks over at me, he goes, you got your strap? And I said, no, dude. And he goes, because I think he's going to shoot us. And I was like, I think he is. Like, he drew a bead on us, and I was like, oh my God, this is not going to go well. And so we get there, we sit down, and Nick tells his story, I tell my story, we start talking, and then that was it, and he was in. And he came to, you came to group pretty regularly, and the one thing was that, in my opinion, I saw a lot of anger and pain from the physical part that you were dealing with your leg, the frustration.
Yeah, there was a lot of that too. On top of that, and that was like at the very top part of the trauma that we first saw, which was something that we hadn't seen because at that point it was just me, Dave, and Nick, and none of us had any physical. Well, Dave had gotten shot, but he had all but healed from that. But we were actively seeing you struggle with the pain and the absolute anger from the doctors. They kept fucking telling you one thing, and let's do this surgery, and let's do that surgery. Well, I even had Works Comp at one point call me and tell me they were going to arrest me for fraud because they didn't believe I was injured.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, didn't they call and tell you didn't lose your leg?
No, they didn't tell me that.
Okay.
Dude, if someone really called and said,
hey,
you really didn't lose your
it's
leg,
work
be
comp.
like, bitch, I can throw this fake motherfucker at
Yeah.
you. Whatever.
It's work comp. You never know.
Yeah.
So we have this conversation, and you get set up, and they come to group, and at that time it's me, Josh, I think Lauren was there, Dave, Benny, and so we see this functioning. And I remember I talked to Dave, and I said, man, like, he's got physical injuries, like this is above our wheelhouse, pay grade, whatever you want. Like, I don't know what to tell Josh at this point because I don't know the frustration that he's going through. I knew the PTSD frustration, but before we could even get Josh to talk about the critical incidents, he was dealing with his leg and the pain and the possibility that you were going to lose your leg.
Yeah.
And so we spent a lot of time doing that. And looking back, what did you gain anything from showing up to group? Like, was it helpful in any way, or was it just a fucking waste of time?
Well, no, it wasn't a waste of time. It was growing pains, I guess, best way to describe it. Right? It's helpful, but it wasn't pleasant.
He was
Right.
never excited to go.
No.
He's never excited of anything.
Well, some things.
He came around the building like he was going to shoot me, and I was like, Jesus Christ, we're homies, right? It's still good. So, what do you think of it? I guess would you recommend it?
Oh, absolutely.
And try not to fight it?
Well, the thing about group 2 is that you can't just go to group thinking that's going to cure it, right? It's a tool. You got to have other resources too, and that's
Right.
kind of one thing. Like, I was seeing a psychiatrist on medication. I was doing counseling, and then I was going to group as well too, right? And then when we decided to move to Oregon, I wanted to get off the meds and stuff like that. So I got off the meds, and then my counselor up and decided to go to a women's only place. So I no longer had a counselor. That was the end of our session.
You really fucked her up, bro. Like, she's like, I'm just seeing women. Fuck it. This fucking cops and PTSD shit.
Yeah, something like that. Probably, I don't know.
Yeah.
But and then so like For a while then it was just group, kind of towards the end, and I was like, oh, that's fine. And then when I went to Oregon, it kind of almost like a relapse, kind of, I guess is the best way to describe it.
Yes.
We came back last year and I went to group with you that one time when I was here, and it kind of reminded me, it was good and bad, because it reminded me where I was and how far I'd come, but it also reminded me how much more work I still had to do. And so when I went back, I got back into counseling, and that's kind of helped me, I guess, push to that next phase. And so like the biggest thing is just like, you can't just expect to go to group and everything's fine. You gotta explore all avenues of what's going to help you. That's just another tool to be able to help you get there. I mean, being able to go and vent and express yourself without fear of reprisal or your judgment is important, but you need other things as well too to help you get there.
You need doctors, because Manny is not it. You're all right, but you ain't no.
I have my PhD in streets. Don't worry about that. It's an honorary degree.
But yeah, I really gained a lot out of group. I mean, it's funny too, because it's like a lot of things that are growing pains. You look back now and you don't really remember it being that bad, right? But then I do remember at the time I really hated it. I hated going because I don't like talking about it. I don't like bringing this stuff back up. It's like, and like, especially like for me, it's like sometimes you get to a point where you feel like you've kind of buried that demon, if you will, and it's like I don't want to bring it back up, because then it brings up a lot of more emotions and stuff like that. It's like I want to let that past be in the past. And for some things I think that's good, but for other things I think it's still important to learn how to be able to live with the past, because it never really goes away.
Right. And so now that we got your opinion, let's ask the sane person's opinion.
I don't know if I'm sane.
What do you think about that? We asked beforehand, we were talking as we were getting set up about coming to group, and you were nodding your head yes, like, yeah, he needs to
go to group.
He needs to go to group.
I think looking back, it's compared to where he was, not even with just the physical injuries, but just like mentally. When he was in the thick of it, I honestly don't think you realized it till you were injured and you're just in bed for a long time, the mental toll that it has. And then looking back, I was like, holy crap, why didn't I notice this before? Like, this is obvious. And it lost my train of thought. So
do I need to go to group? Yes or no?
Yes, you need to go to group. Group is good, but he never wanted to go, and I think as a spouse perspective, you want to encourage them to go, because I mean when we have a good marriage, but I think there were definitely times that we were like, what the hell am I in? Like what the heck? And It wasn't all rainbows and butterflies. It's like, why? What the heck? This is not the guy I married. He is
right.
He is changed. He is like a complete 180. He used to be like, hey, let's go out, and now he's like, no, I don't want to go, and no, you can't make me go, and I don't like people, and like the whole scenario things, which like the whole training thing with the scenarios, but when it's all the time, like even just going to the grocery store to get bread, and I think now that he's gone through two big sessions of therapy, because one here and one there, and then the group, I can definitely tell a difference. He's never gonna be who he was 13 years ago, but I'm not the same person from 13 years ago either. So it's we've both grown, but he's just had to do an extra loop in the growing part to come back.
He took the long route.
He took the long route.
And now,
and I still have good days and bad days. I don't want it to be like, yeah, everything's great now. I still have depression. I still get anxiety. I still get triggered.
There's still days I tell the kids sometimes, like, Dad's in a bad mood, leave him alone.
But I find as time goes on too that the good days seem to last a little bit longer before the bad days come back.
Yeah,
it's a little more manageable.
What about? No, I lost my train of thought.
Sorry. Well, and then we figured out his triggers too.
Yeah, so that was big.
That was a big thing, figuring out the triggers, and then we just avoid them basically.
Yeah. And now, as far as treatment, that's what I was going to ask you. What treatment did you? I hear you did EMDR, right?
I did EMDR here, yeah.
What about out there?
No, I didn't do EMDR there. It's a really small area. There's not a lot of people that are certified EMDR in that area. Actually, it was pretty hard to find anyone that had any experience with first responders or PTSD. Most of the stuff up there is all VA, so it's not really for they wouldn't let me because I wasn't military.
So what did you do for treatment? Like talk?
Yeah, talk therapy,
therapy.
and stuff like that.
I made lots of phone calls to find a therapist that worked with first responders.
Did you go to his therapies?
I went to one or two,
Yeah,
one or two.
It's hard with kids,
Yeah.
especially with young kids.
Speaking of kids, during your time frame there, you decided it would be a good idea to not just to have your daughter, to adopt her, but then take on 2 more.
Well, the 2 more we didn't plan.
They were surprises.
Because we were told we could never have kids. So I was just kind of like, oh, by the way, not only are we finalizing this adoption, but now you're pregnant too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that time frame, you have your daughter,
Mm-hmm.
you got Spanky,
Mm-hmm.
and then you and I decide in our infinite wisdom that we're going to have service dogs. And not only are we going to have service dogs, but
You
we're going to
decided, and then you brought me on board. Let's get that right.
then we're going to
you're like, Josh, I don't want to go do this thing by myself.
No.
So you want a dog? And I was
Yeah.
like, yeah. And you're like, they'll train it for you. I'm like, oh, great. So I called them up. They're like, well, we really like you to train your dog. I was like, okay, sure. How hard can that be?
Exactly. And they did train it just once a week, and for only 2 hours a day. The rest was on us
For a year.
for a year.
For
Yeah.
a year.
And well, I'm going to be honest. It was the greatest time of my life to run around with those crazy ass dogs to do stuff. And personally, I got a kick out of watching a one-legged man trying to teach a service dog how to spray for him.
Dude, you know, they gave me the most spazziest dog. They had that big dog. Remember, I don't remember that big dog that came that was like mellow, right? like that dog had been smoking weed all day.
Yeah.
Like seriously came in and was like, hey.
That
And I'm
dog-
like, why can't I get that dog? That's the dog I want. They gave me the one, like literally they came in and they're like 2 people holding a leash and he's jumping straight up. I'm like, no one else's dog is, why are you giving me this dog?
Because it fits your personality. And so I remember a lot of laughter in that group.
There was a lot of laughter.
And
There was also a lot of stress.
it was a lot of stress. I'm not going to lie. Even my wife says the same thing. She's like, you say it's fun, but it wasn't, you know.
Yeah.
You're wanting to choke the dog and stuff. But getting out in general during that time frame, was that helping him?
Getting out in public?
When we would go to because we would go train the dogs.
Oh, that was not good.
that wasn't good at all.
He hated it.
Well, and it didn't help
Like
that
group,
it was at my
everything.
old precinct too.
Yeah,
That wasn't super
that
great.
was rough. But again, you survived it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so for Lauren, like the spouses that are watching, if they're going back to that time where do you think it was a good idea to just not bring stuff up?
No.
So what would
Not a
you
good idea.
what would you recommend for someone who's in that position now where they're starting to see that subtle change where they're like, he's just having a bad day. I'm gonna leave him alone.
Finding a nice way to be like, hey, what's going on with you? Because he didn't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. That was all he would say. I don't want to talk about it. And then I even tried to come up with the deal of, hey, you tell me 2 things about work. I don't want to talk about it. And that was one of our fights. Tell me 2 things that happened at work today. And I think he did it for like a week.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't say I took a shit and had lunch. There's your 2 right there. So what about for you, Josh? These officers that are hitting at the streets out there in Phoenix and Rough and these cities. What would you say to them? What would you do different?
I don't think you added more coffee to your beverage yet.
It's all-
did
it's
you?
all
Okay.
coffee.
Just wondering.
That's kind of a hard question because it's when you're going through it. That's a multi-layer question, really, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
you have the police culture, right, where we show no emotion at work, right? And if we do, we're weak, and we don't want to be perceived as weak. And so it's hard to, even if you get to a point where you can have that aha moment, if you will, like, hey, something's wrong. You don't want to say anything because you don't want to look weak. Like, I really struggled feeling like I shouldn't have had PTSD because I never got shot. I never had to shoot anybody. So what was wrong with me?
Right.
Why am I messed up? What? Because I saw a couple dead people or a couple kids that died or whatever. Why is that affecting me? What's wrong with me? Why am I weak? And I really struggled with that for a long time of feeling like there's something wrong with me. I should have been better. That shouldn't have affected me. And this is really kind of stupid because a lot of things I saw were really messed up.
Right.
Really just evil, messed up things. And it's like, well, why would that not affect a normal, sane person? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they build you so much in the academy of thinking this police mentality, police presence, all this other stuff. And you have to have that, but you have to remember your person too. So I think if you kind of need to get over that machismo or macho or whatever you want to call it, that bravado of, nothing can hurt me, and be like, hey, if you start recognizing, that call messed me up, dude, you got to say something. And I think a lot of it's on the departments too. And I think slowly there's making some changes, especially like stuff like this, that's making it more aware. And I think that's doing a lot of help, but like not making it such a stigma to be like, hey, I need help.
Well,
taboo.
I just told you this not too long ago. It's not just the police culture. I was on the phone with my short-term disability lady. One of the phone calls where they're fucking me over, the usual. But she said to me, yeah, I thought police officers were a special breed and nothing affected you. And I was like,
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Did that really just come out of your mouth? Because I think I thought that at one point.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I mean, how many times people say that too? They're like, oh, well, like they'll say in the news, oh, well, I can't believe this officer acted that way because he's supposed to be a professional. And it's like, have you ever heard anybody screaming and yelling and saying they're gonna fucking kill you and or trying to kill you?
Right.
And you're just gonna sit there and be calm about it?
Right.
No, you're a person. You're gonna react.
Yeah, but it is not just our police
Yeah,
issue.
It's that perception in general.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a big perception problem.
Yeah, it's definitely changing. I can tell you that for sure. But in some regards, I think it's changing to an extreme. You'll get a kick out of this. I know your old department. Your old department now has cards that they can hand out when they're stressed in the academy,
Oh God.
so that if they're too overwhelmed, they can hand these cards out and they can say, "Don't yell at me because I'm feeling overwhelmed at this point." And
What's wrong with that? The bad guys have those cards, right?
I don't know.
The bad guys can give the cards
Sir,
to them,
please
right?
stop. I'm hurt. It hurts my heart. That's not gonna.
I'm
that's not gonna
I'm
jive.
overwhelmed right now.
And
Yeah.
I've told people this before, and I've said it in speaking engagements. It's coping. At some point in our career, people come in and they take a piece of our soul, and eventually we have no soul left to give. We just become a hollow shell, and we just stop. We become jaded,
Yeah.
and we just stop caring.
Yeah.
I don't care about your problem. I don't care about anything.
And I definitely felt that towards the end of my career, and it's like it's not like, some of these people were legitimate victims going through, you should have empathy for them. But
Right.
I get so sick and tired of constantly getting yelled at or lied to or just the bullshit
Right.
that you're just kind of like, okay, what do you need? You know what I mean? And it's like, that's not really why I wanted to be a cop.
That's
you know
exactly
what
what I was going to say. Not why we signed up.
No.
Not
Right.
why.
I mean? No, but that's how I turned into, because that's how I learned how to survive.
And that was I'd come home, how'd you? Don't ask me questions.
Yeah. And then obviously that personality started bleeding into my personal life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even have to say it. I mean, you check out. And then it got warped, right? And I wanted to be more at work because I needed that fix,
Yeah.
that shot of heroin, to go fucking do the fun shit, run code 3, find bad guys.
Well, because you can do that on autopilot.
Yeah.
It was the home life where you had to actually make decisions. You were supposed to make decisions, but you're like, I cannot make one more fucking decision.
Yeah.
And I'm done.
That's funny you say that.
Dude.
How many times have I said that to you?
You decide.
It's like, dude, I've made decisions all day.
You did say that. I
I'm
remember
done.
this.
Yeah.
You figure out from here on out, because I literally don't want to make any more decisions. I'm tired of having to figure everyone's life out for them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the one should be a real simple question. What do you want for dinner?
Yeah.
Oh my fucking God.
Yes.
He
Just
hated
throw,
that question.
just-
throw some food in
Yes.
front of me and I will fucking eat it or I won't.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be like that.
Exactly.
It should
Yeah.
not be like that.
Yeah. And so now, having been, how long you been retired now?
Coming up 5 years.
5 years. So you're 5 years out. Your critical incident. You're in a whole nother state. You're 3 kids into it. Do you think your communication is better with Lauren,
Sometimes. Not. I mean, there's always room for improvement.
or were you just not the communicative type?
I wouldn't say I wasn't the communicative type, but I've always been kind of introverted person. I guess in a way, I'm not a big sharer.
Right.
You know what I mean? I've never have been. But I try and let her know and say, hey, I'm feeling this way or this way. I may not always go into detail it, but I try and at least let her know kind of what mood I'm in.
What do you got to say to that?
Maybe she doesn't feel the same.
She's not,
He's not a
she's like, how much time you got?
not a sharer times 100.
No, yeah, he doesn't share, but that was before all the incidents and stuff. So I knew that coming in, but I think now we've definitely gotten better at communicating. Whereas in the thick of everything, it was like, hey, this is what you need to know. And that's what you need to know. And I'm not going to tell you anything else.
And you're good with that?
Well, now it's better.
Oh, now he tells
She's
you.
talking about back then.
Back then.
Back then
Okay.
it was, here's what you need to know, and that's it. But now it's a lot better at communicating. And I can kind of pick up on some of the triggers, like when something happens or something is said specifically, you can catch it.
So as a spouse, do you think you need to know more?
Yeah.
Why?
I can't read minds. I don't know what's going on inside of him.
Okay, so and that's a fair answer, but I guess from our perspective, if I'm triggered, I'm not even triggered. Let's just say that I woke up and I am just not feeling it. Like I'm down in the dumps, and my wife wants to know why, and I say, it's just, this call is fucking with me, and that's all I can tell you. Do you need to know the call?
Well,
Or
my personal curiosity would want to know the call. But I think if you're able to communicate saying, hey, I'm not good today and I don't want to go out in public, or I don't want to hear like some sounds trigger Josh. So I don't want to hear this sound.
Hot
or
tones.
I don't want to, or we don't watch the movie Brave with him.
Good.
Yeah, bagpipes.
No, not a good thing.
No.
So if you can say like, hey, this is, I'm feeling really overwhelmed today, really easy triggered, that lets me know like, okay, I need to pick up the slack a little bit more today. And that helps me know earlier the better, like, hey, maybe I need to rearrange some plans. Maybe we need to put the kids at a friend's house for the day, take them to grandma's, go on a date, something.
But what about as far as like the intricacies of that call? Like what about made him sad? Or, how much of that do you want to know as a spouse, do you think? On the call wise, not curiosity, I guess, to try to make an understanding of why he's so bummed out.
I think I want to know, because then I'd be able to understand it better. Like, I don't have PTSD. I don't understand it. I don't understand how it works. And I personally have a struggle figuring out even depression. Like, I don't have that. And so it's, in my time, I research it and try and like, okay, well, what is this? What is that? And what does this mean? And why is it that way? Why does he do this with cause and effect? Why does he react that way? And that way I can better prepare myself to help him, like help support him, help him through it.
Like just hold a space for him.
Yeah.
And you just want to be left alone?
Sometimes.
Well, sometimes.
Probably all the time, motherfucker.
Lauren, I have a question for you. Okay,
Yeah.
We've talked in prior podcasts about spouses that there was some kind of function, a family function, a holiday, a birthday, and he's being a total dick.
Yeah.
So would you prefer he stay for the family function and just be an asshole and make everyone miserable, or would you prefer him to leave that to go get help for himself? And I don't know the answer to this. I'm just, normally I know ahead of time, but
Is it my family or his family? Does that make a difference?
no, it doesn't matter. Like if it's one of his bad days and he's just being a bear.
If he's just being a bear and having a bad day, I would say just don't go, stay home, because it would be less stress for me and for the kids, honestly.
For everybody, right?
For everybody. But at that point, it's like, okay, is that really fair though?
Is it making a difference where he doesn't have to go, but if it was a choice, okay, tonight was group night, this is the night he's being a bear, and there's some function going on, and he could be getting help for himself.
I'd prefer him to go to group.
Okay.
Josh rather stay home and play Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Dad. He's like, I'm way better. So, again, I appreciate you guys coming out. I really do, Josh. And I know how much you stuff that down and you forget about it.
Yeah.
And
especially when I'm 1,200 miles away.
Yeah. And, I appreciate, again, I can't tell you again how much I appreciate you coming out. You, by far, for me, it was really the pivotal moment when you came in that it realized that we were doing something we should be doing. because in the beginning I didn't know.
Yeah.
Dave and I were like, this sounds stupid. Like, we shouldn't do this. From that point forward, I've never, ever had a rough vetting because I was dealing with you in the beginning. And since then,
Get the worst out of the beginning, and it's
Well,
all smooth sailing, right?
you have helped out tremendously, even though you haven't been here. And in all fairness, and as straight up as I can be, you know, watching you go through that when you lost your leg and the physical pain. Since then, we've had officers who have had physical pain, and I can remember I always draw back on that, and us trying to understand that, and learning it, and you communicating with it, because contrary to what. And I know Lauren probably saw this in group, is when you're in group, you'll tell us whatever. Like, you're just open up and you start talking. And you did hold back a lot. And there was a time where you'd hit bottom. I think you'd already lost your leg.
Yeah.
And you were struggling. And I think Lauren reached out and said, he's not coming to group. And I was like, oh, no, he's fucking coming to group. Like, I can kick a one-legged man's ass faster than he can kick mine. So we're going to come get him. And the long and short of it is that, you know, I take 5 guys from group and we fucking haul off over to Lauren and Josh's house. And I have a quick recollection of you pissed off on your scooter coming out.
I was in a wheelchair at this point.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
In your wheelchair. And, you know, it means the world to me that, one, you allowed us into your house and you didn't tell us to get the fuck out. And you did take the time to realize that you needed us there just as much as, you know, Lauren needed us there. And I have to say that, you know, that was probably one of the best groups we ever had. Yeah. We laughed so fucking hard. And I could see from that healing. You know, I could see that, and I could see that moment where it just shifted, and you were really there. You know, you didn't shut us out. You could have, and I appreciate that. And I think I've told you that in the past, but if I hadn't, I apologize. But it meant the world to me that you didn't fucking chase us out with a shotgun.
She put it up high. I couldn't reach it. I was in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Well, I even just had a thought that even in that whole thick of things, it really helped me as a spouse because I could text. I texted you because you're the only number I had.
Yeah.
Like, hey, he's doing this. Like, what do I do? Or like, what does this mean? Or hey, can you call him?
I always knew when she was texting you because I immediately get a call from you.
Yeah.
And then I'd have to send it to voicemail.
That's all right. I left you a nasty voicemail back.
Man, he's calling me. I'm trying to play Call of Duty.
Yeah. I knew what you were doing, you fucker. And we've since changed. Like I said, that's part of the best part is that now we have spouses. People reach out to the spouses, and you can go through that. But I you know, I wouldn't. All the bad shit that we go through, and it doesn't outweigh what we did good. But, man, I wouldn't change the world to hang out with you again fucking with those dogs, man. I know you fucking hated it, but that shit was funny, dude. Just watching a one-legged guy try to track down a dog was good shit. So, anyways, that comes to an end. I appreciate it. When you guys are back in town, definitely come back.
Yeah.
Show up to group. Don't be scared. I know you guys are leaving soon, so you're not going to make this week because I was talking to Lauren. I'm like, hey, you guys coming to group? You coming to group?
If we had driven on Tuesday, I would have. But we literally just drove all night. And
Yeah.
had a doctor's appointment.
So, anyways, much love. I do appreciate you guys coming out and spending these last 60 minutes with us and putting yourself out there like that.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing to be said that we're here for you. And hopefully when it gets fucking hot, I can get out to you guys
Anytime.
and cool down.
Yeah.
Anything else there, T?
I don't believe so. I'll probably have something after we turn this off, like 5 minutes later. I'll
Yeah.
think of something. So
What about you there in the peanut gallery there, special guest? You got anything? You all right? Okay. All right. As always, Josh doesn't watch the podcast because he's fucking too busy and doesn't give a shit. But I'm sure Lauren knows this. We'll end it as we always do, right?
oh yeah.
To us and those like us, and Lauren, for those that love us, right, Josh? All right, we'll see you guys on the next one.
Yeah.